Hi everyone, I know it's been a long while since the last video. I've been a little busy. I thought that I would start this week with a story about how we make the show. You might have noticed that the topics I cover are a bit arbitrary. To be brief, I follow what interests me, I do some cursory research to get a sense of how I want to talk about something. I then do some kind of deeper reading to hopefully get the right info in the right order. It's not the kind of research that I did in grad school or in college. It's probably closer to stuff I'd be reading anyway, so there you go. And while I have been looking at places or movements or even some current events, what interests me the most is the individual. To my mind, history is a collection of stories that we tell ourselves, and while major narrative arcs or large groups of people are compelling, I think centering on one person doing the hard thing for the right reason gives us, all of us, hope or an example of what we can do better. Bayard Rustin was the architect of the famous 1963 March on Washington, best known as the venue for Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. So why isn't Rustin as celebrated as some of the other movement leaders? Well, he had three pretty major strikes against him that kept him from the spotlight. One, having grown up Quaker, he was a pacifist who refused to sign up for the draft in World War II. Two, he was, briefly, a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. And three, he was gay and relatively unapologetic about it at a time when that was highly unusual. Bayard Rustin had a long career as an activist, from helping to form CORE, or the Congress on Racial Equality, to, as I mentioned earlier, organizing the March on Washington. Even so, to me, his most interesting work happened when he entered prison as a conscientious objector during World War II. As a conscientious objector, or CO, he could have entered into a civil service camp, but to him and many other pacifists, work in these camps was still work in service to a war that they didn't believe in. So in 1944, Rustin pleaded guilty to draft evasion and was sentenced to 3 years in a federal penitentiary in Ashland, Kentucky. This prison, like many other institutions at the time, was segregated by race. So despite there being many other draft refusers in the white section, Rustin was barred from associating with them. He began a campaign of passive resistance and wrote numerous letters to the warden. I think this is my favorite part of the story. Rustin wears down the warden by sending a series of letters lecturing him on the evils of segregation. Eventually he wins. The door between Rustin's section and the white section is left open during daytimes at the prison. His resistance isn't without consequence, however. Having secured the right to join his fellow COs, Rustin is set upon by a white inmate wielding a broom handle. Now, because of his pacifism, Rustin lectures the inmate while shielding himself from the blows rather than retaliating, and the man eventually backs down. This episode is emblematic of Bayard Rustin's entire life as an activist. Unfortunately for Rustin, he always seems to buck trends, and he ends up labeled as a sellout when activism turns more radical in the 70s. Thus, he finds himself on opposite sides of fights with erstwhile allies, and isn't often remembered as a large figure in the civil rights movement. In recent years, though, a lot of folks have tried to get Rustin his due recognition as a leader and as an activist, and it seems to be working. So that's all for this week. You can follow me on Twitter, you can follow the show on Tumblr, and you can find a transcript in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.